I'm Ann Bocock, and welcome to Between the Covers. You know Brad Meltzer as the multiple #1 New York Times best-selling author for nonfiction, children's books, thrillers, and even comic books. He's the host of 2 shows on the History Channel, and he used his TV show to help find the missing 9/11 flag. Meltzer's latest book is dramatic, with politics, treason, heroes, and villains. It's The First Conspiracy, the secret plot against George Washington and the birth of American counterintelligence. Please welcome Brad Meltzer.
Thank you. Good to see you.
It is good to see you. If I Google the name Brad Meltzer, am I going to just find man who can do anything?
No, you will find a man who has had slow hair loss over many years. That's what you'll find.
Okay. The time frame for this book is the brink of the Revolutionary War. So it's one of those where George Washington really is in the right place at the right time, because who would have thought? And I want you to give me, he lacks military experience at this point, but his character is more than outstanding. Can you talk about these 2 parts?
Yeah, let's start with it. You know, the title's actually changed since the one you have. It's now called The First Conspiracy, the secret plot to kill George Washington. And that's how I heard about it at first. I found it in the place where all the best things are found, is in the footnotes. And I saw and I was like, a plot to kill George Washington? Is this real? Is this something that the internet made up? Like, what is it? And I was so obsessed with it, I put it in one of my thrillers as like a paragraph, just mentioning it. But I couldn't shake it. Nearly a decade goes by, and I went to Pulitzer Prize-winning author Joseph Ellis, who wrote one of the great George Washington biographies. And I said, you ever heard this story? Is this true? And he's like, I heard bits about it. He didn't know much about it. And he said to me, here's the thing. He's like, what you're looking for is, this is a spy story. It's a plot to kill George Washington. And he said, you can find out to this day how many slaves George Washington owned. You'll never find all his spies. So what you're looking for, Brad, is going to forever be elusive. But he said, you should take a crack. He's like, if you find something, it's going to be an amazing story. If you don't, you're going to have an adventure, so have fun. And I teamed up with Josh Mensch, who I work with on our TV show. And it was a real story. And it was a real story that George Washington, at the height of the Revolutionary War in 1776, found out about a secret plot to kill him. And when he found out about it, he rounded up those responsible, took one of the main men responsible, he hung him in a gallows in front of 20,000 people, the largest public execution at that point in North American history.
It made a point.
Right? George Washington brought the hammer down and said, do not mess with me. I'm George Washington. I'm going to be on the money one day, right? That's not a direct quote, but, you know, they're close enough. He said, I'll be on ye old money one day. But what I saw, and to your question, is this moment of, he's not perfect. His own men are turning against him. What happened and how is this possible? And so what became this detective story to find out who was trying to kill George Washington, you will see all that in The First Conspiracy, also revealed exactly what you said, which was his character. And it was amazing to me because we all know George Washington. We see him on the money every single day. But we oddly know the least about him as a person. He's not like John Adams, where he wrote letter after letter to his loving wife, revealing exactly who he was and what he believed. He was very cards close to the chest. Wasn't like Jefferson, who wrote his feelings out. And Washington is oddly this, he's become someone who's, we've dipped him in concrete, we've built statues to him, but we know nothing about him. And in The First Conspiracy, you get to see him on that day where he's betrayed by those closest to him. You get to see the man who we think has everything, who's the great leader of our country, and he's scared for the first time. And it becomes this real story, as you said, of character, and I think a vital one.
His character is front and center in the beginning of the book, especially. You know, we know the story of the kid that chopped down the cherry tree and couldn't tell a lie, but he actually had, what was it he wrote as a boy? The 110 rules of civility.
Yeah, I mean, this was a rule book that when he was, this is when he's a kid, and he copied all 500+ rules, hand wrote them all out. And they're the craziest rules you've ever heard of. One is like, don't pick your teeth while you're eating, don't spit on people when you're talking to them, a good rule for all of us. But also one's about being a good person, about being a good man.